I'm Kate, and I was raised in a modest home that was always filled with the aroma of freshly baked bread. After school, I enjoyed helping Dad knead bread at the family bakery that he inherited from his parents. Mom was different. She made more money than Dad ever did as a realtor, always wearing dapper suits and high heels. "Kate, come set the table," Mom shouted one night when I was 12 years old. I was gangly and ungainly, and my main interest was reading. Coming. As I spread out the dishes, I dog-eared my page and screamed back. Another calm month until I heard them start up again. Mom said in a contemptuous tone, "John, when are you going to get your act together?" Dad's response was kind. "Sarah, please, not in front of Kate." "Oh, who cares?" Mom lost her temper. She should know what a loser her father is. I held onto the table's edge and forced myself to hold back my tears. In our home, this was a typical scene. Dad attempting to maintain order while Mom made fun of him. I was aware that Mom felt stuck in a life she never desired and was upset about more than simply money. "Kate," Mom gave a bark. "Where's my wine?" With trembling hands, I quickly poured her a drink and put it down. The tablecloth was splattered with some. Mom's eyes blinked. "You worthless girl. Is there nothing you can do correctly?" Dad stepped in. "Sarah, it's only a little wine." Nothing was harmed. Mom gave him a fierce look. "You treat her too leniently. It's no surprise that she's becoming as pitiful as you." I buried my face in my pillow and ran to my bed. I had a deep affection for Dad, but I didn't understand why he tolerated Mom's behavior. For my part, I had mastered the art of being as discreet and silent as possible. When I woke up the following morning, there was an uncanny silence in the house. No click of Mom's heels, no fragrance of bread baking. Dad was seated at the kitchen table, his face pale as I slipped downstairs. "Where's Mom?" I inquired, even though I had a strong feeling that I already knew the answer. Dad handed me a note in Mom's beautiful handwriting without saying a word. "John, I can't do this anymore," it said. "I'm taking Richard with me. Instead of this all-town bullshit, he can offer me the life I deserve. Don't bother looking for me, Kate. You are only useless. You are not necessary to me. You're a loser, John, and you've made our daughter into one as well. Good riddance and goodbye." I felt as though I had been hit in the gut as I gazed at the page. Mom had left. In her final shot, she called me worthless and Dad a loser, abandoning us. The ensuing months were a haze of court cases and psychological distress. Dad petitioned to have Mom's parental rights revoked and filed for divorce. As we waited for Mom to arrive, I recall sitting in the chilly courthouse with my sweating hand gripping Dad's. She didn't. As the grown-up spoke, I lost myself in my thoughts, only to pick up on phrases like abandonment and unfit parent. Dad squeezed my hand when it was done. Softly, "It's done, Katie," he murmured. "Your mother's parental rights have been terminated, and the divorce is official. Now it's just you and me." With a mixture of relief and regret, I nodded. After that, life became more difficult. Dad put in a lot of effort and worked long hours in the bakery. I did the most of the chores even though I was only 12. After doing my homework when I got home from school, I would begin making supper and doing the wash. This pattern lasted for 3 years. Then things changed once again shortly after my 15th birthday. One day, Dad arrived home with a look of astonishment and sadness on his face. Saying Uncle Pete died, he fell onto a kitchen chair. Saying, "Oh, Dad, I'm so sorry," I gave him a strong embrace. He gave me a hug in return. Then with wide eyes, he withdrew. "You won't believe this, Katie." He bequeathed me over $300,000. His sole surviving relative is me. I'm not sure how to handle it all. However, Dad immediately figured it out. He used some of the funds to extend the menu and upgrade the bakery's equipment. Our small bakery became the buzz of the town in a matter of months. Before we realized it, Dad was establishing a second site across town, hiring additional employees and extending the hours. Dad had 3 successful bakeries by the time I was 16. Our concerns about money were vanished. I gave up my after-school employment to concentrate on my education. We even traveled to Europe for 2 weeks, which was our first actual vacation. Over the years, Mom faded into the background. Although Dad dated from time to time, he never showed any desire in getting married again. We were content just the way we were, so I didn't push it. High school graduation passed quickly, filled with tears and cap tossing. I had put in a lot of effort, and it had paid off. I was on my way to study finance at State University. Dad gave me a little package the morning I was scheduled to go. "What's this?" I opened it to discover a key and asked. Dad smiled. "Your present for graduating. It's an apartment close to the university. Rent and dorm life are no longer concerns." I was dumbfounded when I looked at him. "I can't, Dad. This is excessive." I protested, but he waved me away. "Katie, you deserve it. Go now and make me proud." College went by quickly. Determining to take use of the chance Dad had given me, I poured myself into my studies. I was working as an intern at nearby financial businesses while I wasn't in class or studying. I had a junior financial analyst position lined up by the time I graduated. I was standing in front of my apartment mirror, smoothing my blazer on my first day of work. "You've got this, Kate," I expressed to my mirror image. "Make Dad proud." Although the work was difficult, I enjoyed it. Instead of spending every bonus or increase I received, I invested it. I kept hearing Dad say, "Katie, money makes money. Use it wisely." Years went by. Those wise investments paid off by the time I turned 32. In addition to the flat where I resided, I also owned 2 other apartments that generated consistent rental revenue. It was a nice life. Then came the call that made all the difference. "Katie," Dad said in a strained tone, "will you please come over? I need to discuss things with you." He appeared older than I had ever seen him when I saw him seated at his kitchen table. "What is it, Dad?" With a knot in my gut from terror, I inquired. He inhaled deeply. "Honey, it's cancer. Phase 4. Pancreatic." Everything shook on its axis. "No," I muttered. There must be some mistake. However, there wasn't. A terrible roller coaster of therapies, remissions and relapses characterized the following year. Even when he was too sick to consume it, I made his favorite cheese soup whenever I had free time in the hospital or at Dad's place. When I got to Dad's house one cool fall day, he was sitting in his favorite recliner with a serious expression on his face. "We need to talk, Katie," he murmured, supporting the seat next to him with a touch. "The doctors gave me 6 months tops." "No," I remarked, angrily shaking my head. "They're mistaken. We'll seek another viewpoint." He softly interjected, "We, Katie? It's all right. I have come to terms with it. The bakeries are for sale. You're going to get everything. You will be prepared for life." I drew back and wiped my eyes. "Dad, I don't want your cash. I desire you." He gave a sorrowful grin. "I understand, my love. However, this is how I can look after you, even if I'm not around." The following 7 months were both difficult and valuable. We spoke about everything and nothing more than we ever had before. I committed his facial expression, every chuckle, and the scent of flour and sugar that clung to him to memory. Then he vanished one peaceful Wednesday morning. The funeral went by quickly. Then I sat with Dad's favorite apron in his empty house. The documentation had already been completed by the lawyer. Dad had left me everything as promised. I purchased 2 additional apartments with the money I made from the bakeries. Somehow, it felt natural to create something enduring, just like Dad had done. I was only beginning to get my footing a year after Dad's death. Taking care of my rental homes provided me a feeling of purpose, and work kept me occupied. I believed that I had found a new normal. Then the call arrived, which completely upended everything. "It's your mom," Kate said. "I've returned to the city. If you don't mind, I'd want to see you." My thoughts were racing. There was a part of me that wanted to hang up to protect myself from the lady who had left me, but there was also a part of me that was inquisitive and yet clung to the young girl I used to be. "Okay," I said to myself. "Let's meet at Rosie's Cafe tomorrow at noon." My stomach was in knots when I got to the cafe early the next day. I watched her enter as the clock struck 12. Despite her advanced age, she maintained her elegance. She wasn't alone, though. She was followed by a young female, about 17. Mom ran over as soon as she saw me. "Kate, you look amazing, my love. And here is your sister, Lily." It seemed as if someone had hit me, my sister. We took a seat, and Mom began to tell us about her lover, Richard, who had abandoned her soon after Lily was born, their financial difficulties, and her decision to return to her hometown in order to start again. She said, "I heard you have a rental property," in an upbeat tone. I was wondering if maybe. She faded off, but it was obvious what she meant. I glanced at Lily, who was obviously uncomfortable as she stared at her hands. I reflected about my father and how he had always instilled in me the value of kindness, especially in the face of difficulty. I remembered the frightened young child I was, hoping her mother would return. "Okay," I heard myself say. "I have a unit that's just become available. You can stay there." Mom's face lit up. "Okay, thank you. We'll pay rent, of course." I held up a hand. "No rent, just utilities for now." As we hammered out the details, I watched Lily. She looked so young, so out of place. I remembered being her age, feeling lost and alone after Mom left. "So Lily," I said, trying to sound friendly, "you're what, a junior in high school?" She nodded, meeting my eyes for the first time. "Yeah, it's weird starting at a new school for senior year." A twinge of pity ran through me. "I wager. Listen, I'm there if you need assistance with anything, including schoolwork or simply someone to chat to." "Okay," Lily smiled slightly at me. "Thank you. That's really significant." Mom gave me another embrace as we walked out of the diner. "Kate, you are an angel. I hope we can start over, even though I know I have a lot to make up for." Unconfident in my ability to talk, I nodded. As I fell asleep that night, I couldn't get rid of the thought that my life was going to become much more difficult. However, I had a sister and my mother was back in my life, for better or worse. What it would entail for all of us would only become clear with time. After Mom and Lily returned, the months that followed were peculiar. Mom returned to her previous life as if she had never gone, finding employment as a realtor quite fast. For her final year, Lily enrolled at the nearby high school. Unsure of how to handle this new family dynamic, I stayed away. Mom would sometimes call or visit. She would exclaim, "Kate, darling, thank you again for the apartment," with a broad, apparently genuine smile. "You've been such a blessing." Uncomfortable with her eloquent appreciation, I would nod. "Don't worry, Mom, I'm happy I could assist." I became cautiously friends with Lily. I would listen to her college aspirations or assist her with her math assignments. In a way, having a sister was pleasant, but the burden of the years we'd lost was always a barrier. Lily's graduation followed. I went to the event and saw her collect her diploma from the rear. Mom smiled proudly, and I let myself think for a second about what could have happened if she had stayed. Mom unexpectedly knocked on my door the very following day. Her eyes were burning, her cheeks heated. She abruptly said, "We need to talk," and pushed past me into the living room. Confused, I followed. "What's going on?" She spun around me. "Don't act foolish. Kate, I am aware of the flats. The 4 of them." I felt sick to my stomach. How did she know? "What about them?" Keeping my voice low, I asked. Screaming, "You've been holding out on us," she said. Living the high life while Lily and I scraped by. I became irritated. "Pardon me. One of those flats is yours without any rent. Is that insufficient?" "I should own half of those properties," she spat. "I'm your mom." I was unable to resist. I chuckled. It was completely ridiculous. "You're not serious. When you left us, you forfeited all claim to my belongings. Do you recall? No child support, no parental rights." Her tone abruptly altered to one of desperation. "Remember Lily, Kate, my love. For college, she needs money. If you were to sell only one flat—" "Absolutely not," she interrupted. "Lily's education is not my responsibility." "How can you be so selfish?" Mom cried. "After everything I've done for you?" The final straw was that. "Everything you've done for me," I said, astonished. "You mean to leave me?" "In your farewell message, you called me useless." Or, hold on, are you referring to months of rent-free living in my apartment? Mom flinched as though I had smacked her. She just gazed at me for a time, opening and shutting her lips like a fish out of water. She turned and hurried out, slamming the door behind her, without saying another word. I was trembling with hurt and rage as I stood there. How could she attempt to guilt me in this way after everything? I put my head in my hands and sunk into the couch. Although I knew in my heart that allowing Mom to return to my life was risky, I had hoped, well, I wasn't sure what I had hoped for. I had a sharp, throbbing grief as the excitement subsided. This lady was just a stranger who wanted to take advantage of me, even though she was supposed to be my support system and defender. What about Lily? How was I supposed to handle Lily? I was getting coffee at my normal place 2 weeks after Mom's outburst when I saw the barista staring at me strangely. I noticed a little chatter from a next table while I waited for my order. Isn't it unbelievable? Renting all those apartments while charging her own mother. I went cold. They couldn't possibly be referring to me, yet they were. I heard more murmurs and more sidelong stares throughout the course of the following several days. Mom had apparently been busy telling everyone who would listen her distorted version of events. The Facebook post followed. I almost choked on my sandwich when I saw it during my lunch break. My daughter Kate makes a fortune by renting out her 4 flats, but she won't contribute to her sister's college expenses. I'm barely making ends meet, and she's making me pay outrageous rent. That my own child could be so avaricious and self-centered breaks my heart. Every comment that came in was a stab to my heart. How could she harm her own mother in that way? What a terrible individual. I've always sensed that something was wrong with her. On the bandwagon, friends, family, and even former classmates I hadn't spoken to in years shamed me for my alleged avarice. They all didn't seem to care or remember that this woman had left me when I was a kid. My employer summoned me into his office just when I thought things couldn't get much worse. "Kate," he replied, his expression solemn. Your mother and I need to discuss this matter. The reputation of the business is beginning to suffer. The blood in my face started to run out. Sir, I can explain. He extended a hand. I don't need specifics, but I need this resolved fast and quietly. This type of drama cannot be connected to our company. Recognize. Untrusting myself to speak, I nodded numbly. When I returned to my work, I saw an email alert regarding Mom's apartment's unpaid utilities. Fantastic, simply fantastic. I shook my hands and punched in Mom's number. As a welcome, she snarled, "What do you want?" I inhaled deeply while attempting to maintain a steady voice. Your apartment's utility bills are past due, Mom. Remember how we said you would take care of those? She laughed. Oh, please. With all those flats, you're making a ton of money. You have enough money to cover a few expenses. I murmured, that's not the point, as my tolerance wore thin. We had an agreement. She interjected, asking, an agreement? Like the promise that you would support your family? That did us a great deal of good. I felt as like everything was falling apart as I sat there with my phone in hand. How could I have allowed this to happen? This was how I got compensated for trying to be good, giving, and kind. I arranged to see a lawyer with a sad heart. Miss Stevens, the attorney stated as he looked over my case. Evicting your mother is perfectly within your rights. You've given her plenty of notice, and she doesn't have a lease or pay rent. Take note of the utility bills. With a mixture of relief and fear, I nodded. What do I need to do? I inquired. He gave me a piece of paper. This is a formal notice of eviction. We can take legal action if she refuses to cooperate after we serve it to her. With the document in hand, I took a car to Mom's apartment, which was actually my apartment. When I knocked on the door, my hands were shaking. Mom said, her face contorted in annoyance at my presence. Oh, it's you. Have you finally changed your mind about selling Lily's college apartment? Lily has chosen her school. Next month is when tuition is due. My surprise gave way to rage. Are you for real now? You're still making demands after all that you've done. Mom sneered, don't be so dramatic. It's the least you can do for family. That was it, the final straw. I shoved the notice of eviction at her. This is it. You have 30 days to leave the property. Mom's face turned pale as she gazed at the page. Then she blew up without warning. She yelled, "You ungrateful little brute," as her voice reverberated throughout the room. After everything I've done for you. I refused to back down. What have you done? You mean to leave me? Spreading false information about me? She lifted a hand and surged forward. I winced, but the blow did not land. Rather, she spewed abuses in my face while grabbing the front of my shirt. You hear me? You're nothing. Nothing but a callous, self-centered. I struggled to release myself and grabbed my phone. That's all. I'm going to call the cops. Mom didn't back down even though her eyes widened. She went on with her fury, her remarks growing more savage by the moment. I was crying uncontrollably and trembling when the cops came. I politely explained the problem and showed them the eviction notice. One officer said, Ma'am, I think you should calm down and have a polite conversation with your daughter about this. Mom scoffed, Sybil. Alongside her, she's attempting to abandon us to the streets. The other cop looked at me. Legally speaking, Miss Stevens, this is a civil case. Without a court warrant, we cannot take her away by force. I would advise attempting to resolve this amicably between you two, or, if need, going to court. I gave a dejected nod. I was infuriated by Mom's victorious grin as the police departed. You won't do it, she teasingly said. You don't have the guts to take your own mother to court. She had given birth to me, but she had never been a real mother, and I just gazed at her. Something hardened within of me at that same instant. I said, "Watch me," in a steady, quiet voice. I turned and left before she could reply. I heard the apartment door slam behind me as I arrived at my car. I considered what was ahead as I drove home. More drama, more suffering, a legal battle. But perhaps it was also an opportunity to finally escape the poisonous grip my mother held on me. I thought I would throw up on the day of the court hearing. Mom and Lily were seated on the other side of the courtroom when I entered. Lily appeared to want to vanish, and Mom's eyes were swollen and red. Mom put on quite a show as the events got underway. As she spoke to the judge, her voice broke, and she sobbed uncontrollably. She cried, "Your Honor, my daughter has been so heartless. After everything I've done for her, she's attempting to abandon her own mother and sister." I tightened my hands and forced myself to remain composed. Then I felt a sense of relief when my lawyer got to his feet. He said, "Your Honor," in a steady, assured voice, "I'd like to present some evidence that paints a very different picture of the situation." He continued by outlining the facts, including Mom's refusal to pay child support, the termination of her parental rights, and her desertion when I was 12. He presented the judge with the unpaid utility bills and the rent-free agreement. He wasn't finished, though. "Furthermore, Your Honor, we have evidence that Mrs. Stevens is not, in fact, in the dire financial straits she claims." Mom's eyes widened and her head jerked up. My attorney went on. "Mrs. Stevens's ex-partner left her an apartment in a different city. She presently earns a sizable monthly income from renting out this house." There was silence in the courtroom. With a severe frown, the judge turned to face Mom. "Is this true, Mrs. Stevens?" Mom was looking pale. Her mouth moved back and forth many times before she said, "Yes, Your Honor." When the judge handed down his decision, his voice was icy. "The eviction is granted by this court. In addition, Mrs. Stevens shall reimburse the rent for the month she lived in the flat without paying rent. Your behavior, Mrs. Stevens, is absolutely unacceptable. This case is over." With a resounding sound that seemed to reverberate throughout my body, the gavel fell. It was done. We had prevailed. I saw Lily as we were leaving the courthouse. My heart hurt for her because she appeared lost and perplexed. She was not at blame for this. Ignoring Mom's scowl, I approached her. "Lily," I murmured quietly, "I'm sorry it arrived at this point. You may still contact me if you need assistance, genuine assistance, okay." With tears in her eyes, she nodded. "I apologize, Kate. I was unaware." I smiled sadly at her and turned to go, feeling as though a burden had been removed. Over the next few weeks, Mom and Lily left my flat. Through rumors, I learned that they had moved into Mom's other home. They didn't get in touch with me, and I didn't try to get in touch with them. Recollections of the previous several months raced through my head as I stood in the now empty flat. The stress of the court fight, the hurt of Mom's betrayal, and the joy I'd had when she returned. But I felt liberated beneath it all.